So Ravens flock, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been on a very fascinating run of mediocrity for the past decade, and it seems like they're trying to get out of that rut. But I don't know I don't know why they would make this decision, but it still works to our benefit, in my opinion. It's official. Aaron Rodgers has signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We all saw it coming. We all like there was nowhere else that Aaron Rodgers could have realistically gone at this point in his career and still have a shot at being a being a starting quarterback. Like there was literally nowhere else. Especially when you see the Steelers pass on Shador Sanders and Jackson Dart the only quarterback they picked up was like Will Howard in the 6th round, who probably isn't even going to be in the league in the next 3 years. It is what it is. They made this decision. They're claiming that Mike Tomlin was a big part of it. And I think maybe that does add some fuel to the narrative that Mike Tomlin is low-key on the hot seat, because this feels like the type of move that coaches make when they're on the hot seat, regardless of the sport. Whenever you see coaches on the hot seat and they need somebody like a new leader or a new star, more often than not, they'll try to go with that veteran over getting like a rookie, because with the rookie, even though there may be more upside, it's still a situation where it's a coin toss how it'll work out, and they don't want to bet their whole future on that. Whereas if it's a veteran, even if it's a washed up veteran, they feel that they, in their mind, not saying this is the right way to think, but in their mind, they feel like it's a safer bet because at least they know what he is or what he isn't at this point. And this is coming off of a very underwhelming run in New York with the Jets that Aaron Rodgers had. Some people, maybe Steeler fans, may feel as though they should be optimistic, because they may argue that if you put Aaron Rodgers stats and then you match it up with Patrick Mahomes stats last year, they were actually similar. But again, that's just on paper. Sometimes I know people say numbers don't lie, but numbers can be very misleading. And a lot of those numbers came in garbage time. And those numbers, even though on paper they don't look too bad, he wasn't actually helping them win games. Like he clearly was not the same quarterback. He's clearly too old at this point. But the Steelers, they made their choice. And now we got to wonder, hey, are they a threat to us when it comes to having a chance at taking this top spot in the AFC North? I think the answer is no. I don't even think it's a conversation, to be honest with you. I think the Bengals are still the only team right now in the division that really is going to be like competition, even though their defense is awful, just based off of how loaded they are offensively. I do believe the Bengals are still probably the only real threat. At this point, I think you can make an argument that even the Browns may have some more upside than the Steelers, even though they may not be that good either. But what are the Steelers even aiming for at this point? I'm not really sure. I guess to win a playoff game. They haven't won a playoff game since I think it was like 2016 or somewhere between 2016 and 2018 was the last time they won a playoff game. But bringing in Aaron Rodgers, I don't think that's going to make any difference at all. Aaron Rodgers hasn't even been to the playoffs since 2021, and he also hasn't won a playoff game since 2020. Yes, he's had success in the past, but again, that was like 15 plus years ago at this point. I don't know what they're hoping for. Their O-line is garbage. And you went and signed a 41, about to be 42-year-old quarterback with a bad O-line. And this 41-year-old quarterback, especially coming off of that Achilles tear, he can't move it. He can't move like he used to. What are your plans here? What is the goal here? And then you traded away one of your top weapons in George Pickens just to go overpay for DK Metcalf. And I do think it's an overpay, because I think DK Metcalf is overrated. That's just my personal opinion. I watched a lot of Seahawks game just because, one, I'm a Jackson Smith and Jigba fan, but also because I had Jackson Smith and Jigba on my fantasy roster. So I just started watching a bunch of Seahawks games. And then you start to kind of really see why a lot of people don't put DK in that upper echelon with Jamar Chase, with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill and A.J. Brown. Even though he's obviously an athletic freak, in my opinion, he's a very mid route runner. He quits on a lot of plays. He also he relies on his body too much for some catches, which is weird because he has an insane wingspan. Like he's a freak of nature, but it doesn't feel like he plays to that at certain points. And with that being the case, I think there will be a point in the season where Aaron Rodgers chooses to call him out. Probably won't be a good idea, but I could see it happening. Aaron Rodgers, whether it was when he was with the Packers or with the Jets, he has had a history of calling out his receivers publicly. I'm not a fan of quarterbacks doing that. You could do this behind closed doors, but he has chosen to go on Pat McAfee's podcast and in press conference interviews to do this. Either way, I think this will not truly be a big deal for us as competitors in this division. They're not a threat. I don't care what anybody says. And I do like Derek Harmon, who's their first round draft pick, but it's still not going to matter. This is a team destined for 9-8. It is what it is. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Aaron Rodgers signing. Do you think that this is actually going to help the Steelers become a really competitive team again and try to make a push in the playoffs? Or do you think this is just completely irrelevant to us because they're not going to matter when it gets to the regular season?